On your right, Jim Davis. Jim I. Davis, I guess that's his middle name. Sometimes the DCI reporter likes to give us that. I'm guessing his middle name is Enos?
What?
That's an old Southern name. Don't you make fun of it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, on your right, four-colored Dreadhorde. These are backwards, sorry. So we got Jim Davis on your left, Zanside on your right. We'll get the update in just a second. Jim's actually playing the four-colored Dreadhorde deck that people have talked a lot about on Twitter recently. It plays that Explore package, the Jade Light Ranger's Wild Growth Walker, and utilizes that extra life gain alongside Command the Dreadhorde, which gives you a huge life boost, as well as a bunch of Planeswalkers.
And so you see Jim going to work with this Explore package, Merfolk Branchwalker, Jade Light Ranger, exploring a Jade Light Ranger to the top.
Yeah, likely just understanding he needs to keep applying pressure in this matchup.
Zan just spinning the wheels, a couple ops so far. Third land is Interplanar Beacon, but no 3-mana spell to get him going. And an attack for 5. Yeah, we have life totals on the wrong side here too. So Zan Syed's on the right, and he's at 11. Keep that in mind as game progresses here. Another Jade Light Ranger for Jim. Sees a Wild Growth Walker on top. Now that he's already cast these Explore creatures, that one's gone down a bit in value.
Yeah, so the Wild Growth Walker probably going to, stays on top. I guess it's just another creature here, and that's good enough, huh? Jim has a ton of lands, has some Planeswalkers in hand, but wants to keep applying pressure and force Zan to have the answer. The Deafening Clarion, the Cleansing Nova, what have you. And right now he has, 9 power on the battlefield, and with Zan just at 11, he only needs to do 2 more points.
Another Interplanar Beacon. Zan will cast a Narset going to 13. Take a look at the top 4, finds a Saheeli.
A nice little buffer of life there for Zan. Every Planeswalker he plays from now on gains him 2 life, which is pretty insane.
Back Jim's way. Now has 9 power on the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to sacrifice some amount here attacking the Saheeli, but the question becomes, do you play her on Shock? Because if you attack just the Jade Light Ranger with 1 counter on it at the Saheeli, and it gets shocked, and you take deal 6 damage, or sorry, 6 damage to Zan, puts him to 7, leaves him with another Saheeli activation, which could find more removal.
Narset, but your point is taken.
Excuse me, yes.
The set has 36 Planeswalkers.
Yeah, the other 3-mana Planeswalker, the stupid.
So the 4-power Jade Light goes to the Narset, 5 points come across otherwise, Zan to 8. Wild Growth Walker and another Merfolk Branchwalker. So he's going to explore, finds a land, Walker grows, Jim to 23.
Yeah, and this actually gives him 1 creature that survives the Deafening Clarion, but it's going to be on whether or not Zan has any other big sweeper effect. And it looks like he's not going the Kazu Negri route with Cleansing Nova main deck, just the 3 Deafening Clarion.
All right, so let's see what Zan can do. We know there's a Saheeli in hand. That seems like quite a bit too little, too late.
Yeah, I have to imagine that it's like sweeper or bust. And
he's starting with Narset with only 1 land left up. That's probably not enough. He finds Deafening Clarion, can't cast it this turn. Ooh, can cast it this turn. Mox Amber.
Can't he?
Yikes.
Can't he?
Huge Mox for Zan Syed. Jim Davis left with just a 2-4 now.
You know, every time they come out with a Mox, everyone's just like, oh, this was probably bad. It's like, you know, it's never bad.
Why would it be bad?
It's never bad.
Yeah, so Jim's got to reset a little bit. Has a Teferi Time Raveler. He -3s, but can't be drawing cards there.
Oh, no. Jim did it the wrong way. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't quite kill the Narset anyway. But, yeah, the Narset static ability, again, shutting down the Teferi Time Raveler ability. Another one almost missed, but caught just in time.
Can't do anything about it on the time shifted, so it's good it was corrected. We go back to Zan, and now he has Sarkhan the Masterless, pairs with that Narset to take down the Teferi.
Yeah, it's quite good. And even if the Jade Light Ranger comes in and hits the Sarkhan for 3, Zan still has the option to minus and create a dragon if he so chooses, though. That is relatively dangerous in the face of a deck full of Command the Dreadhorde and Teferi Time Raveler.
All right, so what can Jim do to turn up the heat? You got to do something about Sarkhan pretty quickly here.
Yep. Here comes a Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. This can tick up and just kill the Narset if he so chooses. He can also minus and bring back J-Light Ranger, which will grow the Wild Growth Walker by 2 points and potentially do a big chip shot damage at that Sarkhan.
So that's where he's going to go, actually. Brings back J-Light Ranger, puts a Wild Growth Walker into the graveyard, leaves a Tamiyo on top, Walker up to a 4-power creature.
I like sending the Wild Growth at the Sarkhan simply because it eliminates the ability to make a dragon, and you want to get it pretty low if possible.
And so he actually just takes down the Narset and then has a Teferi hit by a Spell Pierce. We go back to Zan. Still has that Sarkhan way up at 6 loyalty, but no other Planeswalkers to attack with now. Here comes the Saheeli.
No, Saheeli is pretty good in this matchup, but the cool thing about the 4-color Dreadhorde deck is that at some points it just goes way, way, way over the top of almost any opponent. It puts in a bunch of creatures, a bunch of Planeswalkers, and then effectively resets their life total with Wild Growth Walker. So as long as they're left with, 1 point of life once the Dreadhorde resolves, they get to go all the way back up to basically where they started thanks to Wild Growth Walker and those Explore effects. And they get a whole battlefield full of Planeswalkers. It also affects your opponent's graveyard too, so you can bring back like Zan's Narset, or if he takes down the Sarkhan here, you can bring back the Sarkhan as well.
So Zan also has a Karn Sign of Urza, made a servo off the Saheeli, minuses the Karn, gets a Construct, gained 2 life off of both of those Planeswalkers because of Interplanar Beacons. He's up to 14. Sarkhan ticks up, takes down the Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. We go back to Jim.
Now, Jim has a tough spot here because he can play the Narset. He can tick up and just start digging for something like Command the Dreadhorde, which I think he should because I think he's actually in a fairly precarious position. And I don't think any of the cards in his graveyard actually get him out of it. What he could also do is get back to Teferi Time Raveler, bounce the Construct, send both creatures at the Karn and clear that, but he's still looking at potentially having to beat a Saheeli and a Sarkhan. And another Spell Pierce gets full value here. This late in the game, that is backbreaking.
Yeah, Tamiyo tried to grab it to Teferi, but Spell Pierce takes care of that one.
Yeah, and now Zan is going to just untap with a bunch of creatures on the battlefield, a Sarkhan with the ability to plus, and give 2 other Planeswalkers the ability to become 4/4 dragons. And even though Jim's at 32 life, this is looking dire.
So he's going to attack with his 2 creatures, though. That Spell Pierce made another servo, so Zan just has 3 blockers hanging around.
Yeah, he can choose the chump block, or he can trade the Matthias Hunt Construct for the J-Light Ranger.
He also has Mox Amber, so that's a 4/4.
It's 5, and it's only 5, right? Because the Wild Growth Walker is 6 toughness and 5 power. So a pretty big misstep here, I think, from Zan. Miscounted by 1, unfortunately, but still in a pretty commanding position.
All right, so we go back to Zan after those chump blocks. Narset Parter of Veils will make a servo off the Saheeli. He'll minus the Narset. Take a look at the top 4. Backup Sarkhan is acquired.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him cast the Sarkhan just to create a servo here as an additional protection creature for keeping his Planeswalkers alive. But I think he's definitely going to tick up the Sarkhan on the battlefield and attack for a lot of damage.
It's an interesting turn. There's a lot going on, controlling fully 4 Planeswalkers. So he's going to plus the Sarkhan, attack down the Tamiyo, connect for 8 damage otherwise.
Okay, and he actually cashes in his old Sarkhan with a bunch of loyalty for a new one just to be able to make a dragon. And I like this play because it diversifies his threats significantly. He has a bunch of protection for his Sarkhan on the battlefield with 4 creatures to block, and has the ability to tick up next turn and potentially threaten lethal on Jim.
Yeah, so he made a dragon, Karn made another construct, Saheeli made a servo for that. We go back Jim's way, starting at the point where he really needs to draw his namesake card, get a Command the Dreadhorde going.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of the deck, though. It's kind of a mopey green deck for the most part. You really need Tamiyo ticking up, looking for it. You need your Explorer creatures to kind of churn through your deck. But if you don't find it, your deck is just a Wild Growth Walker deck with some Planeswalkers.
Attack with the 2 green creatures. This time just the 2 servos jump in front. They'll get chump blocked again. So Zan still just hanging out with 4 Planeswalkers. Post-combat, Jim has a Teferi Hero Dominaria that will tuck away the Sarkhan.
Yep, I like that. Gives him a little bit of breathing room, and if Zan just peels a land here, you know, gives him another turn to keep from dying. But the minus on the Narset is going to find that Sarkhan again. I don't know if there's much that Jim could really do about it, though.
Yeah, so Sarkhan just comes right back to hand. Jim does have a bit of a life total buffer. He's at 24. He has explored a lot with Wild Growth Walker, things of that nature.
Wow. Tick up from Karn. Jim's left with a, do I give you a sweeper to potentially kill a bunch of creatures, or do I give you a redundant Sarkhan so even if I kill it, you have another one? I think here we're just going to see Zan play Sarkhan, tick up, attack for a bajillion. Next turn, play Sarkhan, tick up, attack for a bajillion.
Yeah, and Jim doesn't need to see it. Zan Sayed's going to be up a game here. Apologies, we're still having the issue with the display, so these names are backwards.
Yeah, the problem is we... it's going to be fixed here in just a second, but the problem is it's recorded, and the way our program works, it's recorded as the players it's recorded basically in real time, and we have the players on each side of things connected to the program. So apologies for that, but it should be fixed for Game 2 is what I'm being told.
All right, so let's talk about some sideboard options. Jim Davis now down a game with his 4-color Dreadhorde deck. 1 Hostage Taker.
Nope.
2 Prowl Harpooner.
Nope.
2 Thrashing Brontodon.
Nope.
2 Cast Down.
Nope.
Narset.
Yes.
2 Cry the Carnarium.
No.
3 Duress.
Yes.
Finale of Eternity.
No.
The Elder Spell.
Absolutely.
All right, that one sounds pretty good. And that's what we got in Zan's.
All right, here we go. Here we go. We got Legion Warboss.
There's a lot of blockers. I don't like that card against blockers.
I agree. I think that it's going to get pretty outclassed on the battlefield. Prison Realm.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, love it. Dovin's Veto.
Sure, seems pretty good.
Could backfire if they draw. If Jim actually draws the creature half of his deck.
Not good against Teferi.
Not
good against Legion Warboss. But pretty good on the whole.
Yeah. Lyra Dawnbringer.
It's a little dicey.
All right. Deafening Clarion number 4. 3 in the main deck already.
Not a fan of Clarion against Wild Growth Walker decks.
Last but not least, 2 Lava Coil to complement the Lightning Strike and 4 Shocks in the main.
I do like Lava Coil. Against Jim's deck, he's trying to gain a lot of life so that he can command the Dreadhorde safely. Having the answer to Wild Growth Walker on time is kind of hugely important. And just to go a little further into what I said about Deafening Clarion, I don't think it's necessarily correct to have 0 copies, because sometimes, like in that game, you face down a lot of Explore creatures. It always hits even the largest Jadelight Ranger, so you want to clean some of that up.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't want to get Clarion flooded in this matchup.
Oh, absolutely. I think a couple as a reset button in case Jim gets really far ahead is important. But yeah, I agree. If you having all 4 just seems like a waste of space, because you're going to draw probably 2 in a longer game, maybe even 3, and I think only one of them is going to have much of an impact.
This looks like Jim ended up keeping on 6 here. It's on the play with the Breeding Pools and with the Steam Vents. Merfolk Branch Walker's a turn 2 play, and that's going to put a Jadelight Ranger into the graveyard. That's a sign of maybe a shakier hand. And there's Land Duress. Jim shocks for that. Take a look at Deafening Clarion. Is that 2 Karns and a Sarkhan? Yeah,
it looks like a bit of a clunker, but that Clarion can buy him some time. Jim basically can't cast another Branch Walker here if he has it.
And here's the reason you see that Jadelight Ranger hit the graveyard. The mana base is Beacon, Breeding Pool, Watery Grave.
Yeah, that's pretty gross, honestly. So that Jadelight Ranger would have been a welcome addition, not only as a threat, but also as just a way to dig for lands, because Jim's kind of stuck with a couple 4-drops in hand, so he really needs to find it here. It looks like he brought in Thrashing Brontodon too, which is a potential check for Prison Realm, which is nice. You know, he saw a lot of these Karn Structs that might have an effect on that, but here he's just going to get buried and he's color screwed, so I think this game's basically already over.
Yep, Jim missing land drops. He has uncastable spells. Zan going to work with a Karn. He used Deafening Clarion to take care of the Branch Walker. Jim will shock for another Watery Grave. Still no double green, but he does get to cast this Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and he gets a Jadelight too, so he actually gets some land, so he got some life in him yet.
Yeah, finds Hinterland Harbor, and Wild Growth Walker puts that one into the graveyard.
Yeah, I think here he's just digging for mana and command the Dreadhorde, and he wants to put as many things in the graveyard as possible, because at this juncture, Zan is pretty far ahead on cards. You know, his draw was a lot more smooth. and Jim just needs some big haymakers over the next few turns to come back.
Sulphur Falls is land number 5 for Zan. He's going to use his Karn to grab the Saheeli that was previously wished away. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria is the follow-up. He'll draw a card, untap 2 lands, pass to Jim.
Yeah, and he's just trying to basically generate as many cards as possible. The J-Light Ranger is going to get in some attacks here on these Planeswalkers, more than likely. I don't know if Zan left in the Lightning Strike, and even if he did, he might not even care that his Teferi gets hit for a little bit of damage,
J-Light Ranger plus Sorin will combine to deal 4 damage to Teferi. It'll go to 1 loyalty. Jim will go to 18. And Thrashing Brontodon will be the post-combat play.
Yeah, Jim is gaining a bunch of life here from the static effect of Sorin, the lifelink, but not really a huge problem here for Zan.
Yeah, so there's a correction there. Jim actually goes to 21 creatures and Planeswalkers getting lifelink.
Yep.
Now Zan will plus his Teferi. Interplanar Beacon, land number 6. Saheeli, the one he wished for with the Karn last turn, he'll gain a life.
Yeah, I'm not really liking Jim's spot, but he's not out of it yet. The Saheeli could pose a significant problem for Jim, especially if Zan has one of his removal spells here at instant speed, because he also creates a blocker from the Saheeli, grows the Karn Construct, and things just can kind of topple out of control.
Yeah, so Karn made the token. Those lands will untap from the Teferi, and now he does have a mobilized district hanging out in the mana base. It only costs 1 to activate as well. So some pretty good blocking opportunities for Zan, depending how this shakes out. Jim will attack with Jade-Light Ranger and Thrashing Brontodon. Looks like there's an opt before we go to blocks. Servo is made, scry to the bottom, Zan will draw.
And a Dovin's Veto in hand, so I don't suspect much can go wrong here for Zan.
He'll animate the mobilized district.
Now I like this play from Zan. Blocking might be a little troublesome though. If he decides to do a double block, the Brontodon can just eat the mobilized district, and then the Karn Construct's going to trade for the Jade Light, and Jim might just be fine with that. He's not fine with it, but that's what's happening.
So it's actually just a big trade in combat. The district and the construct are gone. Both of Jim's creatures are gone. Servo, the sole survivor of combat.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Zan has that Dovin's Veto, and not only is it going to counter the spell from Jim, but it's also going to create a servo token from the Saheeli, and that added pressure on Jim's Planeswalkers might be a little too much for him to handle.
Well, this post-combat follow-up is Teferi, Hero of Dominaria.
Yeah, and the Veto will probably take care of this, but Zan might actually just decide to let it lie, because Command the Dreadhorde is such a powerful card to potentially have on the next few turns, and it's something that he might just not be able to deal with it by itself,
Zan did choose the Veto, and now Jim cashes in the Sorin to get back Jade-Light Ranger, explores 2 lands to hand, and because of that Sorin, he's up to 28. He'll play Woodland Cemetery and pass. We'll go to Zan.
Yeah, and he cashed in the Sorin using the J-Light because he desperately needs to dig for that marquee card, Command the Dreadhorde here. He needs some big spell. The Elder Spell would be quite good too. He's got one of those in his sideboard. He can use to clean up all 3 of these powerful Planeswalkers on the battlefield. Now 4. But Zan's going to be looking for a Dovin's Veto here off this minus on the Narset. If he finds it, I cannot imagine the game isn't over.
Well, 3 lands and a Narset, so he finds Narset.
The classic dig through time, find another dig through time.
Not bad.
It's not that bad.
Mystical Teachings for Mystical Teachings.
Oh, yeah.
Clifftop retreats the land for turn. He has already drawn with his Teferi. Karn is going to go down. Another construct enters the battlefield.
I'm really glad we're seeing a lot more Karns going down. We don't get to see that much in Standard. Most of the time it's just tick up, tick up, tick up. Then eventually I'll minus and find my one spell that I really need. But this dynamic play that Karn creates alongside Saheeli, Sublime Artificer, is really, really nice to watch.
So Zan plays the backup Narset, makes a servo, takes that Narset down, finds an opt. He's going to use Saheeli to copy the construct with a servo, attack with that one, and another loose servo. Looks like Jade-Light Ranger is going to chump black the big one. Jim will go to 27 off of a hit for 1. And then we'll untap 2 lands. We'll go Jim way. Can Jim command the Dreadhorde? He'll start with a Duress.
Well, that's a good start because it clears the way for a counterspell. I have to imagine Jim's going for a Command the Dreadhorde here, because otherwise I think he might have even tried to save that duress for exactly when he did have Command the Dreadhorde.
So we see Lava Coil, another Karn, Deafening Clarion, Opt, couple lands. Clarion is going to be the hit, but we know there's no counterspell. And there's Command the Dreadhorde.
There it is, and you can take stuff out of your opponent's graveyard as well. So Jim with the Wildgrowth Walker in the graveyard, as long as he doesn't deal himself 27 points of damage, he's going to survive with a giant battlefield. That's Jadelight Ranger that chump block. That's Wildgrowth Walker, Branch Walker, Thrashing Bronodon. Going to choose not to bring that Thrashing Bronodon.
So I think the total mana cost was 27.
Okay.
Minus the Bronodon 24. He was at 27. But now you're going to see him explore 3 times, goes down to 3, and then will gain life back to 12 is how I'm reading this.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. And he also has the ability to just minus the Sorin to get back the Thrashing Bronodon if he so chooses. He can also just tick up and finish off the Karn and gain a life, which I like that play a bit better, I think. He can also use the Teferi Hero Dominaria to minus on the opposing Teferi or Saheeli if he so chooses as well. Because he can't really plus because he doesn't get to draw the card thanks to that Narset on the other side.
Right, Sorin kills Karn. 13 life for Jim. Sarkhan makes a dragon.
And you're seeing this is exactly why people are raving about this deck. Once you get to cast Command the Dreadhorde, things just get out of control.
Narsettle minus, finds a Planeswalker. Teferi is looking at a minus on something. Jim's saying, hey, what was in your hand again? I looked at it. So we're going to look at Zan's hand again.
Yeah.
Still just Lava Coil and Opt, huh? And Narset will be tucked away by Teferi.
There's another Karn in there, too.
True.
That Karn at the very least represents like a 6/6 body from the... Or 7/7 body, actually, from the Saheeli and the minus.
And that Narset found Teferi Time Raveler. That's a known card in Jim's hand.
Yeah. And now the Opt is cast on the opposing turn, and it's not technically drawing an additional card each turn, so the Narset's ability doesn't affect it, so he does get to cast the Opt and resolve that as natural.
Yeah. Made a servo. Land for turn is Mobilized District. Lava Coil will target the dragon. That'll make a servo for Zan. Prison Realm can answer one of these things, but Jim is not shy on permanence right now.
Oh, this is a heck of a game.
Does make a servo. Targets the Sarkhan. Yeah, that one's good for a lot of damage. That makes sense.
I don't even know what to say. My brain's starting to melt.
There's a lot going on here. And they have 5 minutes to figure it out.
This is game 2.
Yes. As it stands, Zan won game 1. If this game does not conclude, he will win the match. And I'm not even really sure who's ahead at this point.
Yeah.
The Saheeli is giving so many servos to Zan that Construct is just huge because it counts all those servos. So that attacks. Jim just has to chump block with his Branch Walker.
Yeah, but he can always just minus the Sorin next turn and get it back. And
sure. A lot going on, like you said.
Zan decides to plus the Teferi, but doesn't draw the card, but does get to untap the lands, and notably that allows him to activate Mobilized District for a potential block. Jim going to get another Narset activation, finds another Sorin. Ugh. Now, notably, a draw is actually pretty bad for Jim.
Yes.
And a draw for Zan is actually fine. So Jim needs to figure out a way to win this game to at least get a draw, because if he doesn't win this game, he actually will lose the match 1-0-1.
So he's going to cast Vraska Golgari Queen. Now, unfortunately, you see that Zan Prison Realm Sarkhan, but that's Zan's Sarkhan.
Yeah, so
Jim can't get that one back.
It'll
as
go
much
back
as he'd
under
love
its
to do
owner's
that.
control.
Yeah.
Owner.
And he commanded the Dreadhorde for 7 permanents, and it looks like he might lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the strength of this Jeskai Super Friends deck. It can play such a potent long game. And even though Jim had an insane turn with Command the Dreadhorde, he just can't really attack. And his Planeswalkers aren't super effective. You know, the Teferi was bricked by a Narset for a minute. The Sorin is like gains life and brings back creatures, but the creatures are checked, and lifelink doesn't really matter.
So Vraska took care of Saheeli. We go back Zan's way. He's going to use Teferi to tuck his Prison Realm, free up his Sarkhan.
I was going to say, Sarkhan don't got haste, if I'm not mistaken.
That is my understanding of the situation. He can hit something with his Teferi by plussing. Yeah, so Sarkhan went up to 6. Teferi is attacking. There's 4 Planeswalkers or a Gym.
Yeah, but he can always just minus the Sorin next turn.
And now the match, we have this just at regular speed.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it for y'all. I am pretty positive that Jim cannot physically win this game. And in that case, Zan is probably going to end up winning this match 1-0-1. And that's effectively going to end Jim's chances of making the top 8 here. But things could go right for him. There's a chance that X3-1 with good breakers can get in. So I don't want to count him out yet. He hasn't lost this match yet. And we don't know exactly how tiebreakers are going to go yet.
So Zan plays a Narset, finds a Dovin's Veto.
That's really good. Protects him here from a really powerful follow-up on Jim's turn. But Jim still has to chew through like 100 tokens. This is really bad.
It looks like that Teferi just attacked Jim.
Okay.
And now Jim Davis will be turn number 1. Ooh. Oh, he drew... Oh, that was a Command the Dreadhorde. I saw that, and I thought it was an Elder Spell. I got a little mixed up there. But we know about a Dovin's Veto anyway. But what can he do with the Command the Dreadhorde? He seems like he already mostly cleaned out the graveyards, right? There's a Karn and a Saheeli. That's not really going to do it for him, I don't think.
He can... I don't know. That's the problem. Like, these Planeswalkers aren't very well set up at the moment to put each other in the graveyard, but he does have potentially the ability to use Vraska Golgari Queen to plus and then sacrifice permanent, so he could sacrifice the Planeswalker that way. He also has a Teferi Time Raveler, which he can cast here, and that will effectively shut down the Dovin's Veto from his opponent.
So he will cast a Teferi. That's going to grab the Dovin's Veto. That makes sense.
I think Zan instinctively reached for a servo.
Yeah, he had Saheeli for many turns.
For so long.
No shortage of servos already on the battlefield.
All right, 2 mana here. Going to be a Branch Walker. This is just adding more complexity to the board and not really giving him any real traction, though. Like, he's got to chew through all these servos, and he only has 3 total turns of magic to do it.
And Zan's at 20.
Zan is at 20. Now, I think one potential out for Jim here is he starts to chew through a bunch of these tokens. He finds an Elder Spell. He Elder Spells to ultimate Vraska Golgari Queen. And that eventually allows him to attack and get through 1 point of damage with any creature, and that might be his way to win the game. But he's only got 1 Elder Spell in his 75, and he doesn't have it yet.
Given that he already has Command of the Dreadhorde, if he finds some way to put a Sarkhan in Zan's graveyard, I think that could be huge for him.
Yeah, that's true too. That is a huge burst of damage if he can find it. So, I mean, he's going to basically send his squad here at Sarkhan, and most of these creatures are going to jump in front and block.
So that Wild Growth Walker now up to 9 power, the most recent Explorer for Jim. There's a Tameo Collector of Tales hanging out on top of his library. His life total is 26. Big attack for Davis. It's like Zan holding on to 6 servos and a construct, as well as mobilized District as creatures he can use to block.
And they said creatures in front of lands a long time ago, right? But they never said creatures in front of Planeswalkers. And that was a mistake. Jim's doing the MTG Arena style where all the Planeswalkers are off to the right in a neat little stack.
I do like that.
All right, well, here's a pretty complicated combat step for Zan because every servo he chump blocks with is going to shrink the construct token. So if he blocks a 4 power, he needs to leave 4 other artifacts on the battlefield in order to make sure that it survives. So he might actually be incentivized to actually block a 3-power creature here, which it looks like he's shifting to. He can put Mobilized District in front of one of the Jadelight Rangers and maybe chump block a Jadelight Ranger.
So it looks like Servo's in front of most things, Construct in front of the Branch Walker, which is a 3/2.
Yeah, I don't mind this block here because you keep your Construct around, which is going to be pretty big in general. You protect your Planeswalkers from these attacks, and if you peel next turn, you might. I mean, I'm not even discounting the fact that Zan can still physically win this game, even though Jim's at 26. Sarkin has a pretty high damage output overall.
So you rearranged. Now the Construct is in front of the 4/3 Jadelight Ranger, so just traded the Servo with that. And Jim's got to do some counting because he has Sorin Vengeful Bloodlords. He's about to gain as much life as damage his creatures are dealing here. He's at 26 before this. What do we have? 9, 13, 17, 20? Is he going to 46? Now Jim will activate the Planeswalkers. And yeah, 46 was the life total. Vraska to 3 and no sacrifice. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, looks like going to 3.
Yeah, and that can't draw a card because of the Narset, but the Sorin here can minus and get back a creature. And then even a Jadelight Ranger might not be that bad if he just needs to find another Dreadhorde potentially.
Sorin down to 1, Thrashing Brontodon picked up from the graveyard.
This is a nice play from Jim. He pops off the Servo token, and that actually shrinks the Construct down to a manageable 3/3, or sorry, 4/4 with 1 damage on it. So,
all right, Zan Syed, turn number 2. Just those 3 Servos as blockers in that Mobilized District. He has 3 Planeswalkers, one's a Sarkin, but Jim's life total is 46 currently. Not shy on life.
My brain. I cannot imagine how these players feel. I'm getting tired just watching it.
Yeah, this battlefield's very glutted. Yeah, earlier I said that Jim might lose despite that command of the Dreadhorde, but now it seems like given enough time, he is pretty firmly in the driver's seat.
Well, you say that, but he doesn't necessarily have a command the Dreadhorde yet. Zan could have a Dovin's Veto for that Tamio that's going to get back the command the Dreadhorde. And here Zan's ticking up, and he can just clear off 3 Planeswalkers straight up. He has 3 chump blockers, too, to potentially protect next turn. 4, I guess, technically, with the Mobilized District. Ooh, and it looks like he even has a Deafening Clarion he could use to sweep up everything on the battlefield that's not Wild Growth Walker.
Yeah, that could be effective. He's looking with Narset. There's Clarion there. 2 lands, can't take those.
I kind of like the prospect of sweeping it all up, honestly. 3 Servos are a lot worse than the 4 Explore creatures that are on the battlefield. You can use Mobilized District to chump block for a turn if you need to, but you have to clear off some of these Planeswalkers from Jim's side.
So Zan actually went for the other find there. It was a Planeswalker of some sort.
It's like another Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, I believe.
Time Raveler.
Sure. Yeah, here I would check everything except the Sorin, personally. And then Time Reveler, just maybe bounce Wild Growth Walker since it's just so big. You can have 3 Servos and a Mobilized District to block the 4 creatures on the battlefield.
So Sarkin's coming up. Bunch of Planeswalkers is hitting a bunch of other Planeswalkers. So 3 of them going down. Jim just with Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord as far as Planeswalkers go.
Yeah, and that one's not a bad one. The plus can kill off the Narset, which allows him to eventually draw some cards if he needs to. It can also just, do a point of damage to one of the other Planeswalkers if he wants to try to combo kill it with attack step or something like that.
So Zan will draw with Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, cast that Teferi Time Raveler that he found.
We are out of black dice for Planeswalkers. That is what I'm being told in my ear.
And try Time Raveler down to 1, bounce that Wild Growth Walker, reset that one.
Yeah, we still have the Mobilized District to block. I believe Zan still has a Karn, He can play that, minus make a construct, and still has Mobilized District, which is currently free to activate.
Interplanar Beacon.
These are really tough turns for these players. I cannot imagine. I mean, I've been in these kinds of spots before. I generally try to play decks where this kind of thing doesn't happen on the regular, because it starts to get too much. My
you
brain
have to do this all day. It'll wear you out.
My brain, it hurts.
So Zan, back up Narset. He'll choose the new one. Take that down to 3. Take a look at the top 4. There's a Sarkin in there. A Prison Realm. He's going to take Prison Realm.
My pal Ross Merrim's over here near the booth, actually watching the match on our little side cam. Rooting on Jim Davis. He left for a few minutes and then came back, and his mouth was agape because all of Jim's stuff died.
Yes. Jim has quite a few fewer permanents than he previously had in this game.
Yeah, I still don't mind a Deafening Clarion here. I think since you bounce the Wild Growth Walker, you get to clean up all these Explore creatures, and it leaves you with no servos, but those are just badly worse than all the creatures on Jim's side.
Another tap of 3 for Zan. Looks like it's going to be that Prison Realm that he just found. Well, on tap, though, none of these targets look very inviting for the Realm. It's going to be a Jade Light Ranger. Really interested in that Scry, I suppose. He'll Scry to bottom.
Yeah, it makes it so he doesn't have to cast a Clarion this turn. He can wait like one more turn, or save it in case there's another big Command the Dreadhorde turn.
Right, so it looks like now we will be untapping to 2 lands from that Teferi that drew a card, and we go back to Jim Davis. Previously, he was activating 4 Planeswalkers, going into this turn with just 1, a meager 1 loyalty Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord.
Looks like he does have a Command the Dreadhorde in hand, so, you know, my brain.
I believe Jim's still at 46. His life total is so high that the numbers don't even register on the screen for some reason. 45, of course, the highest number that we can register using symbols.
Yeah, of course. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. Awkward when it comes up, but it is common knowledge. Jim Davis, can I see your graveyard?
It's stacked.
Got some nice ones in there.
Let me check my own graveyard. Also stacked.
Let me push these 6 lands to the side.
Yeah, weird. Let me shove all my creatures at one of your Planeswalkers and force 3 chump blocks, which puts a Branchwalker in the graveyard, which puts an, I don't know. It's too much, man.
Yeah.
Gain another 100 life from Sorin's ability. Jim has one more attack step. That's the thing. He's not going to win the game. This is all for naught. It's going to be a 1-0-1 loss. But can't fault him for fighting.
No quit in Jim Davis.
Yeah. There's no quit in team.
Yeah,
but there is an I in quitter.
Zan's going to fire up the Mobilized District, throw some servos in front of these creatures. District eats the Branchwalker. Jim gains some life.
Great. It is good in combination with Command the Dreadhorde, right? Because you do get a significant amount of life taken away from you whenever you cast it.
Ooh, and new technology, we can now see that Jim is at 54.
You know, there's between 45 and 54 lives only a void. And once you get over the 53 threshold, you once again have the ability to display numbers as symbols.
If you stare long into 46, it gazes also into you.
Okay.
How many mana costs do we have here? We have a Karn, that's 4, Saheeli 7, Narset 10. Jim's got to get some of his own stuff back. Teferi, 15.
Awesome.
Vraska, 19. 3-mana Teferi, 22. 3, 6, 8 more on top of that. So it looks like he's going to pay 30 life here. There's a Wild Growth Walker and some exploring, though. So currently he'll go down to 24. Down to 24.
I'm going to have to speak to Andrew Brown's manager. I need to talk to whoever thought it was a good idea to print 36 Planeswalkers in the new set. And also a 6-mana spell that lets you bring them all back from the graveyard. And this,
yeah, this is a lot of stuff for Davis.
Can we go to break? Tell them to wait.
Throw in the towel. Throw the towel.
You can't win, Rock.
And now we do have confirmation we are out of black dice.
Great. Love it.
White dice on the creatures. Planeswalkers will now be tracked mentally.
You know, they're in the void too.
We should use the name Dread Horde instead of Super Friends just generally for a team of Planeswalkers. Well, because they are a dread-inspiring horde.
I mean, sure.
Todd didn't like my joke.
You know, you don't make many, and I think there's a reason.
Wow.
Okay, so he can bounce Prison Realm if he wants, I guess. That'll get back Jadelight, let him gain some more life, which is definitely relevant.
He hit a servo with Teferi.
He's going to minus the Narset, dig for the top 4 cards. He's going to find a Tamio. Yo, sir, those are random, sir.
We are getting pretty deep in the deck. Let me cut that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Hero of Dominaria is going to -3 on something.
Yeah, you're right. Something.
Sarkin. Yeah, free up those black dice. I like that. That's a good strategy.
Minus and blow up probably the Narset so it can't find the Sarkin would be my guess. Yep. And then nothing on the Saheeli. Probably going to make a Construct. Just another creature because an extra card doesn't really matter. And an extra creature might actually help him do all 24 points.
And
the problem is he can never get a Sarkin into Zan's graveyard.
Looked like a tick up on Sorin. It was on 1. Dies on 2, it goes to 3.
Yeah,
it's a +2.
It ticks up by 2.
Yeah,
so.
we'll get that fixed.
There it is. Great. Wonderful.
Jim will gain another life.
I mean, if this game went another 2 turns, I think Jim would win. This turn was absolutely absurd. He completely decimated Zan's entire side of the battlefield. Zan's left with a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and a Teferi Time Raveler, but neither of those do that much in the face of a Narset.
They don't warn you about the second command, the Dread Horde.
Yeah, the first one's usually good enough, but in this case it wasn't. And now Jim, though, still needs to win this game next turn. It looks like Zan's going to fire off that Deafening Clarion here and clean up all the Explore creatures, but doesn't clear the Wild Growth or the Thrashing Bronodon. But what he does do is make sure he doesn't die. And since he's up a game, this is going to be turn 5 of 5 next turn. Jim has to kill him.
Zan, turn number 4 here. He's going to cast Sarkin the Masterless.
And notably, he has to kill him to get a draw.
Yes, yeah. Fighting for the right to be 10-2-2.
That's such a feeling.
Sarkin makes a dragon. If a creature attacks Zan or a planeswalker he controls, that dragon will deal 1 damage to that creature. Deafening Clarion. 3 damage to each creature. Sweep up those Explore creatures. Brontodon and Wild Growth Walker will hang out, as will the dragon.
Yeah, but with Jim having 1 turn to deal 25 damage, it's not something his deck's really capable of since he doesn't have haste. If he has, well, here's the thing. if he has a way to kill this Sarkin before combat, and then he finds a that's an Elder Spell. If he has another Command the Dreadhorde, he can bring back the Sarkin plus, and then all those Planeswalkers turn into 4/4 dragons. Wait, no, he can kill a bunch of Planeswalkers. He can make Vraska Golgari Queen ultimate. Both of his creatures get the ability to kill if they hit, and he actually can win this game.
Yeah, so you Elder Spell, kill a lot of Planeswalkers, tack the loyalty onto your Vraska, you're saying. Vraska's -9, you get an emblem. Whenever a creature you control deals damage to a player, that player loses the game. You have 2 creatures to Zan's 1.
Yeah, but he has 2 technically because he can activate the Mobilized District. So he has to find a way to clear off either the dragon or the Mobilized District.
That might be too tall of an order for him.
Oh, man. He does have a Tamio, so he can play the Tamio in minus.
Ooh,
oh, no,
well,
he activated the Vraska.
An interesting thing about that Elder Spell line is Zan would have to activate the District in response, which presumably he would.
Yeah.
But he would no longer have the mana to activate it once the Elder Spell resolved.
Still can minus the Narset, but I think the Vraska was his only out, and I think he might have fudged it. Because he can't activate it again.
So Narset to 1.
He found a backup!
Yeah, it's a backup Vraska. That's the card going to, well, maybe not. No, he's going to grab Teferi Time Raveler.
If he had just found the Teferi Time Raveler, bounced the dragon, put all the loyalty onto the Golgari Queen, minus the Golgari Queen, attack with both of his creatures, he could have won the game and gotten the draw.
Yeah, that's really what it looks like here. To Jim's credit, this game is horrendously complicated.
No, I mean, I would have lost 5 turns ago because I would have quit. I would have quit.
Yeah, exactly. I was not able to save myself from the scoop phase.
Oh.
And Jim's surveilling now, but remember he's already used his Vraska. So is there something else he could do with the Elder Spell is what he's thinking.
He didn't take the Vraska from the top of his deck on the Narset, so I don't think he has it.
And this is turn 5. This will be the last turn of the game.
All right, here's the thing. He can Elder Spell the Sarkin, but he can't minus the Tamio and the Dreadhorde and cast it. He's short on mana. If he had more mana, if he had infinite mana, he could win this game a couple of ways, I think. But with just only having 8 or 9 mana to start the turn, I don't think he has a way to do it, especially now that he's activated his Golgari Queen Vraska.
And you see Jim looks like he's ready to toss it in, feigning some frustration. Puts the hand down. Yeah, they're going to shake hands. So Jim Davis not quite able to